fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Hello, Salt Strong Nation. Joe Simons. Like diamonds, we are back. Got my main man, Dave Otte on. Brother Dave, how are you, dude?
Hey, Joe, man, I'm finer than frog hair split four ways, brother. I just couldn't be any happier.
Finer than a frog hair split? Well, doggone, you gotta be happy.
That's awful fine.
Thanksgiving.
That's very fine.
And if you hear kids screaming in the back, we are recording this here right around Thanksgiving, and kids are off school today, and they're at home. And our office where Carol's had strep throat, so there was no way I was going into the office and getting anywhere near the strep throat virus. So I'm here in the office, and this has been a cool story that we've seen evolve over the last couple of years with our brother Dave, and I wanted to share it, and it kind of got provoked, and I haven't told you this yet, Dave, but I'm part of this group called C12, and it's really a mastermind meeting every month for CEOs of faith-based, Christian-based companies. And it's been really game-changing for me. And a gentleman who had never been to one of our meetings before showed up and sat next to me. And it turns out he's one of our insider members. He's a somewhat new insider member. And I'm always curious. I ask people like, hey, how did you find us? And why did you decide to join the club? And he says, I've been seeing your videos on YouTube and Facebook really for like a year. And he's like, I never joined because I didn't feel like I was fishing enough. And, I finally got a new boat and I realized like, man, I need to maximize this investment. I got, $40,000 tied up in boat and equipment, and I'm not that good at catching fish. And so I wanted to maximize my investment. He's like, I saw a video. It was an ad that we did, and it was you. And he started explaining. He's like, yeah, this guy was telling the story, and he's like, it sounded just like me. He's like, he had spent money. In your case, it was a kayak, and got a little frustrated, and just weren't you were catching fish, but not consistently. And then he kept talking about how it was a family, and it kind of surprised him that the Insider Club was more of a family and fellowship and community than just getting some tips and shortcuts and spots. And he's like, man, that's what I wanted. And so I signed up like right on the spot. And I was like, that's so cool. I can't wait to tell Dave. So here we are now getting to kind of share your story. And I'd love for you to maybe take us back. Like, did I don't know the answer. It's like, did you grow up fishing as a young boy?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to fish as a young boy, but my dad wasn't a fisherman. And this was back in the 70s when Bill Dance I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, and Bill Dance was one of the only two fishing shows on TV. There was Bill Dance and the Fishing Hole, and that was about it. And I finally asked for a fishing rod, and I got one, and we had some ponds around the house, and I'd go with an uncle of mine, and so I learned the basics of how to fish with live bait and catch brim. And as I got a little older, I'd get on my bicycle and I'd go around, and Mr. Twisters came out, and I'd catch some brim and bass, on the Mr. Twisters, and and I really enjoyed it, and got older, and life got in the way and kind of got away from it. And, but I mean, it was fun. Wasn't ever really serious. And as I got older and had children, I kind of did the same thing. I got some canoes, and I had a friend that had about a 14-acre lake, and we'd go catch some bass and brim and crappie, and, could go to the same spots and catch a few fish and have a good time. And that was about the extent of it. It was something fun to do. But then I moved to Pensacola.
And where were you? Ohio prior to that?
No, I was in Memphis.
Oh, I'm sorry, Memphis. Yeah.
Time.
I thought you lived in Ohio for some reason, like you worked there. No, am I way off?
No, I've been either in Tennessee or Alabama most of the time until I moved to Florida. So
the promised land. The promised land.
Yeah, and I was like, well, I'll do the same thing down here. And I realized real quick, you don't just go to the same places every time and catch fish. You go to the same places and most of the time get skunked. So, got a kayak and, had a friend that told me where to, some places to go and stuff like that. And, he told me, he was a good friend that meant well. And he told me places to go fishing that he had caught fish. And he told me, he said, all you need is a gotcha white grub with a curly tail and a 1/4 ounce red jig head. He said, that's all you need. So I went fishing with that when he told me to go, and I was picking up grass out of the grass flats and stuff like that. And I was like, this ain't right. This just ain't working. And I got so frustrated. I fished for a year and didn't put a fish in my kayak, and I noticed he wasn't catching any either. So I was just about to quit. And I had seen some videos of Salt Strong and Tony and stuff like that, and I just was so frustrated that night when I got home. And I saw your guarantee. You said, if you don't catch any fish, we'll give you money back in a year. And I was like, well, what have I got to lose? And then, brother, you changed my world.
In which way? Obviously, most of our listeners probably don't know what has happened, but I'd love for you to kind of share what the Insider Club has done for you, and fishing and friendships and all that great stuff.
Okay. Well, when I first, this sounds like it was so long ago, but really it was only a couple of years ago. So much has changed in that amount of time. It seems like it was a long time ago, but I was so naive, or so, how you would say it, I just didn't know what to do. And I started watching the courses, and there weren't but about 3 at that time. There was the, Inshore Slammer, Redfish Mastery, and Finding Spots Mastery. I think that was about all we had at the time, but they were golden. And we had, the tips. And I started looking at, what I was using. My rod, my reel, my line, my knots. I was doing it, not that I was necessarily doing something wrong, but I could do it better. And so I started applying those things. And then I started, I was also looking, okay, where do I go? And it's like, well, depends on the time of the year. You go here and you go there. Summertime, you look for where it's a little deeper, and spring, you go where it's shallower, amongst many other factors, because you got wind and everything to consider. But, man, I started, and things didn't get better right off the bat. As I started tying knots, and I was slinging jig heads off, trying to tie the FG knot, and my whole leader would come off, and then I'd get a big old wind knot that looked like a bird nest. And that started in June, and it took till about September. Conditions were hot, and I was struggling. And then about September, I caught my first redfish. I'll never forget it. I was in Indian Bayou, and snuck up a little spot in the back where I heard a great blue heron squawk. And Luke always said, if you see birds, that's a real good sign. So I paddled my kayak back there and tossed it off, and that 21-inch redfish took my camo jerk shad on a twist lock hook like Tony and Luke used, and my world changed right there. Things started getting better. I started catching fish, and I just started having so much fun. And all I did really was I watched what Luke did and what Tony did and what they used. I did exactly the same thing, and things just started changing.
Having more fun, becoming more consistent.
I did.
So there's obviously a transition for you. I want to take even a step further back, because we talked about you growing up there in Memphis, and it sounds like obviously freshwater, and then all of a sudden you're now in the Panhandle. Before just a couple of years ago, had you caught any saltwater fish, or was it all freshwater?
Oh, I'd only caught freshwater fish, small ones on a beetle spin with light gear, and just, had fun when I went, but never was really serious about it. And then when I came down here and I found out it was hard, then the challenge began, and that's when I really wanted to learn, okay, there's guys out here doing this. I can do this too. What do I have to do to make it happen? And I just watched everything that you and Luke and Tony did.
Looking back, what do you think were the biggest mistakes that you were making, like knowing what you know now? And I think to me, it comes down to one of really kind of three things. I mean, spots is an obvious one, meaning just in the wrong spot at the wrong time. But I'm also seeing a lot of new members who are coming in that are in good spots. I mean, they're seeing tons of fish, they're seeing bait, they're seeing birds, they're in the right spot. But either they're loud as can be, they're positioning their boat or their kayak incorrectly, or they just got the completely wrong tackle. I know Peter Deeks talks about that. It's like the most common thing that he sees is guys, they actually know how to go find fish. They know how to read a satellite map, but they're sitting there like overpowered, like they're going fishing for a Goliath grouper when they're trying to catch, a 30-inch redfish. And it ain't that easy when you're going in there with line that they can see clear across the water. And the other one is just, completely just having no idea and needed some serious guidance. Where do you think you fell on the spectrum?
Well, I'd say the first thing was spots, because people would tell me where to go, and I would go, and they'd say, "I caught fish there. You got to go here." Well, the thing was, when they went there, it was a different time than when I went there. And the thing that's different about spots and fish is that spots stay the same. Fish move depending on the conditions. And so I thought if I went where they caught fish, then there'd be fish there anytime I went, and I'd catch fish too. But the reality is, not like a pond where everything is, fish don't have that far to go. They don't have a lot of deep water, things like that. Fish are going to move depending on the conditions. So if it's real hot, they're going to go where it's cooler. And this is another thing I learned is about fish anatomy. They're cold-blooded. They can't make themselves warm. They got to go where it's warm or cooler. So I was going to good spots, but in the wrong conditions. I was going to a summertime spot when it might be fall or something like that. And so, that was I would say the biggest part of it is knowing and watching the wind and how that has an effect on the water temperature or where the fish want to be is really what we're talking about. It's the fish want to be in this place, so you go where the fish want to be. It's the 9 and 10 rule, as Luke talked about. But that was a big part of it. Another thing was the gear and the noise I was making. I didn't realize that, especially in the kayak, if you got a claw anchor, you just barely set that thing down and it makes noise in your kayak, that fish can hear. And also, one of my other things was the gear that I was using, like my rod, my reel and everything, it was too heavy because, I was using heavier stuff because if I catch a big one, I want to make sure that my rod can handle it. Well, shoot, the stuff I use now is considered lightweight. I mean, considered 10-pound braid, and I've caught some 30-inch redfish off of that. The lighter stuff now that we have is just awesome, and it lets you cast farther to get out in front of more fish. That's another part of it. You may not. I didn't think at that time that casting 5 yards farther was a very big deal. But if you're casting 100 times, that 5 yards gets multiplied and you're getting that bait out in front of a whole lot more fish. So these are the things that I kind of took for granted or, didn't realize until I started paying attention to Tony and Luke and the things that they were saying. It's like, wow, this really makes sense. And then when I started catching fish, it really made sense because things changed.
Love it. Yeah, someone we had on the podcast used the term fins and no fence. So meaning fish have fins and they have no fence. So they are going to move usually multiple times a day, and certainly seasonally they're going to move big time. And it's a good reminder: fins and no fence. So that being said, what do you do differently now in terms of your pre-trip planning? And I call it, thinking like a fish in terms of putting yourself at the right place at the right time, or at least giving you the best chance of doing that. What does your pre-trip plan look like on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I'll tell you, the first thing I check is the weather and see what the wind is going to be doing. And because, I fish in a kayak and in a small skiff, so the wind affects both. But like this time of year, the wind is cooling the water, and depending on this is a transition period here, so you got kind of both going on at the same time. So one, you want to stay out of the wind. Another, you want to cast with the wind so you can get in front of more fish. But that, the weather is a biggie. Another thing, Joe, that I have just really started is these smart fishing tides, the app, I guess the website that you put out there. Because what's different about that is, of course, it shows you the tide, and I pay attention to that too. If it's rising, falling, or getting close to slack tide, that's a factor as well. But the sonar map, because is the key. I didn't have access to something like that before. And what I've noticed the most is when you find that sonar map that you can drill into really like a river or a creek that you might think it doesn't change much. And that sonar map will generally have it down to where you can see where the change is. And those fish like to be where those lines get real skinny. And what that means is you got to drop off. And especially this time of year in the fall when we got a transition period, they're going to be in that deep water, when it's cold. And then as the sun warms up that warm water, they're going to be going up up those lines to the shallower area to get in the warmer water. So now I'm looking at that sonar map for those places where those lines get skinny. And then I know that's going to be a really good place. I can go in the deep water when it's cold, or I'll go in the shallow water later in the afternoon when it warms up. And usually somewhere between there, I can catch fish. And that's another thing, Joe, is what this has given me is confidence. That's another thing that a new angler is struggling with, because they're not catching any fish and they think something's wrong with them. And that's not the case. But when you start applying some of these things and realize they work, it's like now I can go out and target these fish, target the place I want to fish. And there's times when I get skunked. That does happen when some reason they just don't bite. It does happen on occasion. But for the most part, I can plan on catching something, even if it's a little bitty one. At least I know it wasn't me. And I was still in the right place. The big ones just weren't biting that day.
Now you're winning awards and stuff. I mean, talk about a transformation. Tell me about that, because I saw your post in the club, Angler of the Year. What it was something awesome, right? What was it?
Yeah, well, I'm a member of Pensacola Speckled Trout Club, and we've got some guys in the club. I've been a member this is my second year. And we've got guys in there that have been fishing for, years and years. I mean, veteran anglers. And I got to know some of them. And not that I'm so great. I'm still learning a lot, because they have not local knowledge that I don't have as well as they do. So there's a lot to fish, and knowledge of the area is good too. In addition to all the things I pick up from watching instructional videos and gear and stuff. But I just started this year, with a mindset that I was going to be flexible and I was going to do whatever I can to catch fish, because we have our tournaments on certain weekends. And it may not be the best conditions to go fish that day. It may be really cold or windy or really hot, or, right during a full moon, which can be good, can be bad, all depends. And I just made up my mind I was going to do whatever it took to catch fish. And I would carry live bait with me. I would carry artificial bait. I would, we knew where the places were going to be that we were going to fish before we went. So I would scout. I would go there. I would try to catch a few fish, but mostly I would pay attention to the maps, like right before, because the conditions would change. And I ended up catching some fish. I placed in almost every tournament we had except for one. And I just kind of had a few tournaments where I did well, and then had a bunch of tournaments where I just caught a few. And, we have points, that's more than just fishing. It's also participation points and things like that. And I went to all the meetings, everything that we had to do, and caught a few fish. And I ended up getting Angler of the Year, and nobody was more surprised than me. I just was like, this cannot be happening to me. I hadn't been doing that this long. But it just goes to show that it's not always about spots, and it's not always about what the bait you use. It's about where you go, depending on the conditions at that time. And I also went to one of my buddies in the club, Wendell. We went on to a tournament over in Keaton Beach back in October. And I got third place for the trout and like fourth place for the redfish, and caught my nice trout on my first cast on a super spook. I mean, that was just totally awesome. The 23-inch trout,
Nice.
23 and a half. And it's just like anything else. I'm just doing what I've learned, and I'm applying it, and I'm catching fish. It's not that I'm so special. I just pay attention, and I'm catching a few fish here and there. And I celebrate every fish I catch, Joe, because I treat it as if it were the last one I was ever going to catch. I have confidence, and I'm just loving this right now. I'm not any a better fisherman or a better person than any of these guys that are out there that were doing it for years. I'm just applying a few things that I learned from you guys, and Lord have mercy, it pays off.
Well, kudos to you, and I have noticed that you are catching a lot of fish because for those of you who are not insiders, I don't know why you're waiting. As Dave said, there's zero risk. Either you catch fish or you don't pay. But Dave is in there quite often posting really amazing reports, and you just got the biggest smile in all your pictures. I love seeing them. And if you're not too, check out this. I mean, he's mentioned it 2 times now, is smartfishingtides.com. That is free. You don't have to be an Insider member to get that. There are some extra things that you can unlock as an Insider member, but all that stuff, including the sonar, is there now for the public. And that is incredibly helpful. And Dave, you're just a perfect example of someone who has gone out there, applied and studied the stuff off the water. I think a lot of people think that, hey, I can only get better if I'm on the water. And there's certainly some truth to that. You obviously have to fish to be able to get better, but doggone, like you can have, you can have a transformation off the water just by watching this stuff and watching these videos and gaining this knowledge, off the water and basically online in front of your computer or laptop or tablet or phone. And then when you do get on the water, you mentioned the other word, confidence, that you just have more confidence to go out there and predict where the feeding fish would be. And one thing that I think is really cool, and I've seen this multiple times with you, is a new member reaches out in the community and says, hey, I'm in the Panhandle area. I'm here near, whether it be Destin or right there near Floribama. Where was that one area that I met you up with and we went and fished?
Yeah, we were at Johnson Beach over at Perdido Key.
Perdido Key, where my wife's mother was raised. And then you go out and meet with them. And I've seen so many posts saying, man, like the one guy said, this is what a community is all about. That was the title of it. And he had met up with you and you guys went out and you showed him some of the little tactics you're using. And it's cool when, I would say the student kind of becomes a teacher and is able to teach other people. That's when you have it dialed in. It wasn't just a fluke that you had one great day and happened to catch a big slam. I love seeing that, man. And talk about that. How has that even evolved? Are these guys reaching out to you in the community or what?
Yeah, Joe, that's another thing that happened after I joined is we started up the community. It used to be Fish Strong, and it's just gotten better and better, and more people are joining. And I've met so many friends that way. Josh Smith, Thomas Campbell, Mike Umstead, these guys, all they had to say to me, or I had to pick up on was, hey, I'm in Pensacola or in the Pensacola area. And of course, I've met people in Destin, and Joe Chamberlain, he helped me out in the tournament. He reached out to me and told me a place to go try, and that's when I did so well. But it's, we get to share our pictures and our catches, which is really cool. Hey, I got a nice fish. Hey, look what I did. That's cool. But a big part of it is just you can see the trends, because people we're not selfish like some other fishermen you may have known in your past that won't tell you what they use and won't tell you where they went because they're afraid you're going to catch their fish. No, we know the fish move around. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. And so when people are posting, they're posting what they used, they're posting what the conditions were, what time of day they went, exactly, in some cases, exactly the spots where they went. And, you're able to take all that information in as well, along with sonar and things. And then, I give people my phone number. I haven't had anybody call me from Salt Straw or anywhere that was they gave me a bad experience or something. Everybody a few people have called me. I say, hey, let's get together. Let's meet up. You get to know them. You get to, find out what their life's like and what they like to do. And oh, by the way, we get to catch fish together, So it's not only just fishing now. We're able to pour into each other's lives, Sometimes I'll reach out to them, and I had Jeff Chicola, an insider here. He reached out to me and told me about a place to fish for a tournament, and on our last tournament of the year, which allowed me to catch 2 fish and really helped me get on the board and finish up Angler of the Year. Joe Chamberlain helped me to find a spot to fish and do well in the tournament. So they reached out to me. I'm reaching out to other people, and it's just such a. It takes it beyond just being out of the water. When I'm at home at night and I'm scrolling through and I tell somebody, hey, that's a great catch, Well, to me, that's a little confidence builder. Everybody needs something like that, and these kind of things, and knowing that if I catch a good one or even if I don't catch a good one, if I catch anything, I'll take a picture of it and say, hey, here's how my day went and here's what happened. It helps other people, and we're all in this together, and we're all growing and getting better at the same time. That is just such a cool thing you don't get when you're just by yourself or with, just a couple of buddies, and you don't have this huge community that we got all over the country. And fish don't care where they are. They act the same no matter where, if you're in North Carolina or Texas, and my golly, they got some good trout down there in Texas, but they act the same there as they do here or down in South Florida.
Yeah, no, he'll certainly hit the same lures, and it's all about everything you just mentioned is studying the smart fishing tide, studying which way the wind's coming in, and thinking like the fish, knowing the details for that day, and knowing what fish are looking for, which is really 2 things, right? They're looking for a meal, the fish got to eat, and they're looking to not get eaten by something else bigger. And it certainly simplifies things. I think one thing too, someone told me this, they called it the credit card filter. And the credit card filter essentially means the second you charge money, even if it's only $1, for us, it's 27 cents a day. So we're talking not really much money in the big scheme of things. Just the fact of charging 27 cents, it takes all the bad people out. Like, it's crazy. That filter eliminates all those negative Nancy's, and it eliminates all those guys and gals that want to sit there and curse and belittle everybody. And people are more willing to share both the good and the bad, including their spots. I saw one yesterday. It was a newer member, and I mean, he shared a kind of a tough day, and it was awesome. Meaning he got skunked and was just kind of frustrated. And, normally you don't see that on social media, right? People only want to show their best catches and all the cool stuff that happened. But man, you can learn so much. I mean, think about some of your most painful trips, or if you listen and think about a trip that you had that didn't go well, how much more you can learn from that than one where just everything went perfectly. Because you don't think about it as much. You just think, oh, this is too easy. But a lot of times those trips where you did plan right and it still went bad, that's where you really, really learn. And that's how you get massive improvement. And I love the fact that community shares all of that stuff. And when they do, that gentleman talked about having a tough day and just all the awesome feedback that came from a lot of really skilled anglers. I mean, 10% of our members are full-time guides, and they were chiming in on giving them some tips for the next trip. So I love that. That credit card filter has been big. And on that same note, I want to talk about just the word family. You used that in that video that you had filmed. I think you and Mike were out in the boat that day and talked about family. It's the reason that gentleman sitting next to me joined and what he's felt in it so far, that it does feel like a family, not just like some online fishing group. Talk about what that's meant to you.
That's true, Joe. I couldn't agree with you more, because when I think I even responded to that post. I remember the one you're talking about, because when you're a new angler and it says so-and-so's first post, I think that was the case, and they tell you how they had a hard day, it hurts my heart, because I know how that feels. And it's like, hey, I got the information. Maybe I can help you with one thing, that have you tried this, or maybe you ought to think about this kind of an area instead of the one you went to, or something like that. And that's what's different, Joe, is it really is a family, because like you said, on Facebook, that's all fake. It's only the good stuff, and people only want to see the pretty pictures and stuff like that, where we post good fish, and sometimes we post, I remember one time Tony posted a sunset picture, and it's like, oh my gosh, even Tony is transparent enough to show that. But we care, and we pour into each other. I mean, this is the way that God designed us, was to be in relationship with each other. And whether you believe that or not, we know things are more fun when we get to share them with someone else. And that's what's different, because as you see posts, there's people that I've been communicating with for a year or more, like Austin. I mean, he's catching all these huge trout and snook and stuff like that. And I feel like I know the guy. I've seen him so many times, and we communicate back and forth. And it's crazy how you can have an online experience with people that you've never met. You care about each other. That's like Teresa. I don't care what I post. She's going to tell me, you did a great job, Dave, even if it's a little old bitty one, and we just help each other out. And what you were saying is so true, Joe, about the credit card factor. We do have to pay for this. And by golly, for me, the return on my investment is much greater than what I've ever paid, because I'm having so much fun. But I lead small groups at church, and I kind of have apply the same thing there. We have a book that we have to pay for. It costs $10 for our group. And I have done this before, where I provided books for people, and when you give a book to somebody and they don't pay for it, most of those people don't come back. But if somebody had to invest in something and are willing to say, okay, I'm going to invest something out of my pocket, that means, okay, I'm buying in and I'm going to give this a try, whether it works or not. And those are the people that usually come back and start to really dig into our small group material, but it also applies to fishing. We pay a little bit, which isn't huge, but that automatically says, I'm in, I'm going to be a part of this, and these folks aren't negative and they don't act that way. Okay, I'm not going to act that way either. That's my theory on how that works, and it's I would say it's 100% positive, because if there's any negative as far as attacking people, or I know the admins, Nick or you or Luke, they're going to stop it. They're going to pull that post out, and in fact, we even have a way to report something that's inappropriate or something like that. So it is family. It's like you say things, in your family, you can have an intimate conversation with a family member that you wouldn't have with somebody you don't know. And that kind of applies to fishing. You can tell somebody you're struggling with catching fish and you don't really know what you're doing right now. And somebody's going to say, come on, hey, try this, or go watch this video, or, here's what helped me. Maybe it'll help you. Yep.
I love it. And by the way, I don't think there's been a single thing reported in like 3 or 4 months in the actual Insider Club, just because, once again, the credit card filter, it eliminates all the riffraff. I don't know what it is, and you're right in the whole paying thing. I know I heard Tony Robbins talk about that, where someone says, "Hey, why do you have to charge so much for it's really information, right? You don't walk away with anything but information when you go on one of these Tony Robbins events." I don't know if you've seen how much he charges now, but it's $5,000 a person to go do that latest Tony Robbins event. And he said, you know what? I used to do these at a lower price. And at one point, I'd let some people come in for free to sit in the room when it was a lot smaller. And at that time, it was like $1,000. And so let's just say he had 40 people in, and he let 3 of his friends or just people who couldn't afford it come for free. And he said every time he did, and this was 100% of the time, that the people that he let come into free that had the same experience as the people that paid $1,000 or now even $5,000, not a single one of them did anything with it. Not a single one actually went and applied what they learned. And the people who did pay $1,000, it was the opposite. It was like 90% of those, because you're never going to have 100, but like 90% of those actually did something with that knowledge and had some kind of transformation. I thought that was so powerful. I mean, it says a lot about us as humans, that we value what we pay for, and that we usually will take action when we have a little bit more skin in the game. And I found that to be so true with this. And I mean, one other thing too on the family, and I don't want to get Christianese on here because that's not the point of it, but we've had a lot of people, including you, have reached out to me, and we've done some of this publicly, some privately via text, but even just praying for each other. I know you had some health issues with the wife, and we prayed over you, and even mentioned it on a live Q&A call. And this doesn't matter if you're Christian or not. And yet I've yet to meet someone who is any religion that will say no for someone to pray over them, right? I mean, if you think about it, it's kind of funny, but I love the fact that we're open to do that, and I get emails from all the time, and some of them are pretty powerful stuff that we have the whole team pray over, and we'll just take a little moment of silence to pray. And I think that's been really, really special. I never intended it to be that way, but I think we've found that we've attracted a lot of just really amazing people that will say a prayer over you and help you out any way possible. So. And I want to thank you for that, for being open to that, and just being willing to share and to pray over people inside of this amazing community.
My walk with God has been, as everybody else has a story, it hasn't been always close my whole life. But a few years ago, we've got something at our church that I'm a part of. It's called Freedom, where we settle all our yesterdays, and we realize that God's not an angry God, and He wants the best for us, and He loves us. And that's just kind of putting a whole bunch of stuff into a nutshell. But Joe, and nothing happens by coincidence. There's no such thing as coincidence. I don't believe that a bit. Nothing happens on accident. Just the fact that we were put together at a certain time, and that other people are brought into our lives at certain times, and this whole thing about relationships. That the fact that, hey, even if you weren't a Christian, I would still say, Joe, you tell me about something, I'm praying for you. I got your back, brother. And the fact that you do, and we do, and this whole organization is like you said, a faith-based organization. That's another thing that makes it different. And whether you agree with the faith thing or not, you can't deny that that's what makes it different and makes it even more intriguing without you saying that that's what it is. I mean, you can, when you become a part of this family, you just know something's different. And it's because of what God is doing. Just like sometimes, I know we've been fishing and we have each other's phone numbers and stuff. And sometimes I'll just text you and say, "Hey, Joe, hope your day gets better," or something like that. And turns out you're like, "Wow, you don't know how much that meant to me," because I just got something in my mind that said, "Hey, reach out to Joe or reach out to Mike or somebody that I know." And if I didn't have this relationship, where I knew you or knew of these other guys, I wouldn't be so quick to do something like that. But it's just amazing how God is working in all this, and how even if we don't have to preach to each other all the time, we can just be really good friends and sharing positive, which is the equation equal to love. Just show everybody that, hey, you're important, you're special. I know you're struggling, you don't want to struggle, and maybe I can help you out a little bit, or maybe you can help me out a little bit. And you know what? We can all have fun at the same time, and it's just awesome.
Man, it's funny. Yesterday we had our team meeting, and that was the big topic: is how can we love on our members even more? And there's a couple ways. One is just to recognize them, right? Recognizing guys like you via this podcast. We had the strong anglers of the week. We're doing little raffles and giveaways. And with that community now, that there's who knows how many posts are going up every day, every hour now, just to get in there and recognize it. Man, great catch. Or, hey, it's going to get better on your next trip. Or, hey, here's a quick way to fix that. Just how can we love our members more and more and more every single day, every single week. And you said the word relationships. I think so many of us out there in this just a weird time in society, right? Even though we all feel like we're connected, it's kind of lonely out there. And at least to me, once I discovered this tribe, obviously that we founded, but once we discovered how powerful it was, I don't really go to the normal Facebook anymore, because I kind of feel empty there, and there's so much negativity and having to do with politics and all the just the trash out there. And man, having a positive group of people and building real relationships, to your point, that we share phone numbers with each other if you want to, obviously, and text each other and go fishing. I've been fishing with you. Man, that was a cool story in and of itself. That, I was in Perdido Key for my wife's family's reunion, never fished there before. And I posted, and this is before I really had a good relationship with you. And I posted in the group that I was going to be there, and you reached out like, "Hey, Joe, I live nearby. I'll take a half day off work and kind of show you around." And we did, and had an absolute blast, caught a lot of fish, and formed a relationship because of it. And once again, a brand new city, and it was all because of the power of that community. And you caught a really nice redfish, all weight fishing, right? Like, we didn't even have to get the boat or kayak out.
Yeah.
We killed it there that day. That was a blast.
Yeah, it was one of those days where it started off slow, and I was scared to death. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm fishing with Joe. We ain't gonna catch a thing." And then the sun came up, and it got better. Yep. I tell you something else about the community. It's getting so big that now I have trouble looking at all the posts. So now I find myself filtering on my region. And there's enough posts in there to generally keep me busy with people that are in the Panhandle region. And now these are people that I can even reach out to and go fishing with. It's not somebody that's in Virginia or something like that, where it's just, not possible really to go fishing. But if somebody's over in Destin, an hour away, shoot, I'll take some time off and go fishing with them, or I'll say, "Hey, I'm over here. This is what fish are doing over here." So the fact that the community is getting larger, is actually making it smaller for me because I'm able to focus more on my region. Now, I do look at others, and I may miss some of Austin's big old snook that he's catching or big old redfish, but I can see what people are doing right where I'm at, and the weather's about the same. And I got a good chance of meeting them and even having a closer personal relationship with them.
I love it. No, it's so true. That was kind of a fear. We just went through 10,000 members, and there's, some days 100 new ones joining every day. And so it is growing like crazy. And that was kind of a fear, but we've seen it only become more and more powerful. And now we have the regions broken out, and more people are connecting and doing even little meetups. It's been really cool to see that. And I have a feeling we'll probably be at 20,000 this time next year when we're talking the way we're growing, and it'll just be more and more powerful. And that'll be more. It's just like a big, powerful church, right? You have so many more resources. You have so much more momentum, and that breaks out more small groups. And you end up having a more powerful community with more powerful relationships and just more access to people. Or if I want to go fishing in Virginia, I know people in our club, but I can shoot a message to you right now, and they will help me out in Virginia. And same with the Carolinas or Georgia, Louisiana or Texas, et cetera. So that's been really cool. Anything else, man? I know you got to get back to work, and I got to put out some fire share. I hear kids screaming in the background. Hopefully that hasn't been too loud. Anything else?
Well, I just want to say, Joe, that our pastor says the same thing. Is that I go to a huge church, but we have more people in small groups than we do at the church services and on Sundays, and that's what's happening. All the relationships are happening, and that's where change really takes place, and change spiritually or change fishing. It works the same way. It happens within relationships and with other people. And Joe, if I had anything to say to somebody that's just getting started or struggling catching fish, I just want you to know that I started with nothing. I didn't have anybody to really show me a whole lot about saltwater fishing and stuff like that. And I'm not special. I watched what I saw you and Luke and Tony doing, and I simply duplicated that. I was like, what I'm doing is not working. I'm just going to do what these guys are doing. And I want to give you a little hope to say, if you're struggling, if you're not catching anything, put aside whatever you think is important or learn before and just do what you see other people or Luke and Tony doing. And I promise you, it will work, or Joe is going to give you your money back, and you got nothing to lose. It can only get better. And I hope and pray that you have half as much fun as I'm having, because I'm having so much fun. I just can't stand myself sometimes.
and I love that, man. And even on the flip side, I don't want anyone to think, oh, this is only for newbies who are getting skunked. As I said, 10%, or it might even be 12 now, of our members, our paying members, are full-time guides. Captains who are out there on the water, and they're there for the network. If you're wondering why they're there for the network. And then every one of them, even like C.A. Richardson, when he was in there all the time, he's like, man, I'm learning something new every month that I had not thought about, or a certain lure or a way to rig something. He's like, every month I'm learning something new. This is a guy with the TV show. So there is something there for everyone. I think obviously these stories like yours, the massive transformations, are usually coming from people who have been struggling a little bit more and just want to maximize their time. It was crazy. I saw, Dave, that I think it was last year there was $48 billion with the B, $48 billion of fishing tackle, gear, equipment. That includes boats. $48 billion sold last year alone. That's nuts. And yet very few of us, including me for many years, including you, we buy all this stuff and we don't spend any time gaining the knowledge, right? We don't spend any time investing in ourselves to figure out how to maximize all this stuff. It would be like having a $40,000 set of golf clubs and just trying to figure it out on your own by going to the driving range. I would think if you were wise and you invested $40,000 on golf clubs, you might spend a day with a coach or a pro at the golf club, right? You might spend a month with them. I think that would be a great way to maximize your time. That's really what this does. It's ultimately giving you the freedom. You mentioned the freedom to go out there and find new spots on your own, to go out there and predict where the fish will be, and then the confidence to do that. And then finally, the relationships part, the network. That's something that you can't put a price tag on. All the best guides and fishing tournament pros will tell you that. I mean, you're only as good as your network. And that's been really the kind of the surprise factor of just how powerful this is. And as you mentioned, there is just something special. It does feel different. And there's definitely God's hand in there. And once again, we've just attracted just really amazing people like you, who are just super helpful and super positive, and just want to see you succeed. Just want to see you have more fun. So, Brother Dave, this has been awesome, dude. I am so blessed that you are part of our family. And if we can ever do anything to help you or better serve you, let me know. And if you're listening to this and you are a member, man, refer someone over. And if you're not, go to saltstrong.com. Right there, you'll see a little place where you can learn more to join and take the risk-free challenge for a year, just like Dave and over 10,000 others have. And we would love to see you in there. Anything else, my friend?
No, Joe, I love you, brother. I love what you're doing. You people anybody listening to this, just check it out. We're having such a good time. We'd love for you to be a part of this. Come along with us. We're just having fun. And it's like Joe said, it's about the information piece. We get all the marketing for all the stuff to buy thrown right at our face, but we got to go searching for the information. And by golly, here it is. So just come on and see what it's about.
Love it, dude. All right, everybody, join the club. Go befriend old Dave Otte in there, and he will certainly be one of your most helpful friends. Anyhow, guys, thank you so much for all the love, all the support on this. We can't do it without you, and I hope to see you inside the Insider Club. We're out. Peace.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul. It was pain.